I was only 11 when I saw my sister disappear in front of me. No, not vanish into thin air or anything mystical like that. She walked out of our house one evening with her hoodie on and never came back. People say she ran away. Others say she got into some kind of trouble I wouldn't understand. But none of them were there. I was. It was a rainy Tuesday, the kind of day where everything feels a little slower and the skies feel heavier than usual. Mira was 17, smart, sarcastic, and way too clever for her own good. She always had a plan. That night, she looked at me longer than usual before she left, like she wanted to say something but didn't. I remember asking her if she'd be back before dinner. She just smiled, pulled her hoodie tighter, and walked out. I waited for hours by the window. The next morning, my mom called the police. My dad didn't say much. He just sat on the edge of the couch, staring at his phone like it would bring her back. That was the beginning of the silence that filled our home for the next 6 years. People stopped talking about her eventually. Her photos came off the walls. Her name stopped being mentioned at dinner. I never stopped thinking about her though. I started collecting her things. Notes she scribbled in old books, drawings she left half-finished in her sketchpad. I kept them all in a box under my bed. And with each year that passed, I promised myself one thing. I'd find out what really happened. Years passed, and I grew quiet. But not inside. Inside me there was a storm building. By the time I turned 17, I had become someone else. Not someone fake, just someone focused. I read everything I could about missing person cases. I taught myself how to track digital footprints. My parents thought I was wasting my time online. But I wasn't gaming or scrolling. I was building a map. The first clue came unexpectedly. It was buried inside Mira's old notebook. One day, I was flipping through pages I had read 100 times before. But this time, a sticky note fell out from between the pages. On it was a simple phrase. "You'll find answers in the cracks." I didn't understand it at first, but the phrase stuck with me. A few weeks later, I overheard my dad on the phone in the garage. His voice was low, but I caught a name. Dr. Elman. He sounded nervous, like he didn't want anyone to hear. That night, I searched every database I could find. After hours of digging, I found a reference to a psychologist named Dr. Elman, specialized in trauma-induced memory repression. I had no idea why my dad would talk to someone like that, unless he knew something about Mira. I confronted him the next day. He denied everything, of course. Said I misunderstood, that I shouldn't poke around things I didn't understand. But there was fear in his eyes, and I knew then he was hiding something. So I dug deeper. I hacked into his old email. Not proud of it, but I didn't care about pride anymore. I found archived messages between him and Dr. Elman. The subject line read, "Mira, case update." The emails were vague, but one line sent chills down my spine. "She remembers more than she's letting on. Suggest we move quickly before she tells her brother." Her brother. That's me. I sat there staring at the screen. Everything I thought I knew was flipped upside down. Mira didn't just run away. Something happened, something my own father wanted to bury. I printed the emails and kept them in my pocket for days. I didn't know what to do with them. If I went to the police, they'd say it's too old. If I told my mom, she'd fall apart again. So I made another promise to myself. I'd go find Dr. Elman. Turns out, he was still practicing 2 towns over. I booked a fake therapy appointment under a false name and went to see him. I walked into that office with my heart beating in my ears. Dr. Elman was calm, soft-spoken, and definitely not surprised to see me. "You're Mira's brother, aren't you?" he asked, before I even sat down. I froze. "What happened to her?" I asked. He looked down at his desk, then back at me. "That's not my story to tell." But I wasn't leaving without answers, so I pressed him, pushed every button I could. Eventually, he leaned forward and said something I'll never forget. She came to me, scared. She said people were following her. She believed your father was working with someone powerful, and she had seen something she shouldn't have. She feared for her life. What did she see? I asked. He shook his head. She never told me. I left that office with more questions than answers. But something had changed. I now knew this wasn't just a disappearance. Mira was hiding from something or someone, and my own father was involved. That night, I confronted him again. This time, I had the emails, the recording from Elman's office, and my fire. I looked him in the eyes and said, "Tell me the truth. What did you do to her?" He broke. Not in the way I thought he would, he cried. I'd never seen my dad cry before. And then he said something that made my stomach drop. I was trying to protect her. From what? From myself. Those words haunted me. He confessed that he had been part of some kind of private intelligence firm that worked on off-the-record operations. One of those missions went wrong. Mira found a document she shouldn't have. She started asking questions. So he helped her disappear. To protect her, he said. They were going to kill her, and I couldn't stop them. So I did the only thing I could. I helped her vanish. I sent her away. Where is she now? I asked. I don't know. And just like that, I was right back at the start searching. But this time, I had a lead. I had names. I had connections. And I had one very personal reason to never stop looking. I was going to find Mira, no matter what it took. After my father's confession, something inside me shifted. For years, I had believed Mira had abandoned us. Then I thought she had been taken. No, I knew she had been helped to disappear by our own father. And still, somehow, he had no idea where she'd gone. He said it was safer that way. He said she didn't tell him where she was going, so that if anyone ever came asking, he couldn't give them an answer even under pressure. But I could see in his face that the guilt had been eating away at him all this time. Still, guilt wasn't enough. I needed direction. Did she leave anything? A note? A number? An address? I pressed. He hesitated for a long moment. Then he walked over to his desk drawer and pulled out an envelope, old, worn, and sealed with red wax. My heart skipped. She said to only give this to you if you ever started asking the right questions. I took it with trembling hands and broke the seal. Inside was a single handwritten letter and a photograph. The photo was of Mira, older than I remembered, standing near a mountain cabin with a soft smile. The letter read, "If you're reading this, then the silence is broken. I couldn't stay, not after what I saw. Dad helped me disappear, but I couldn't tell you the truth, not then. I knew they'd come for you next. If you want to find me, go to the place we spent our last real summer together. You'll know what to do." The place she meant was Pine Hollow, the small mountain town where we used to vacation when we were younger. That summer had been the last happy memory we shared before everything got weird, before she started acting scared and secretive. I left the next morning. I didn't tell my parents. I packed my backpack with water, my laptop, Mira's letter, the photo, and whatever cash I had saved. I caught a bus to Pine Hollow and spent most of the ride staring at the photo, memorizing every detail. When I arrived, the town hadn't changed much. The trees were taller, the roads more cracked, but the same stillness hung in the air. I rented a cheap room at a roadside motel and started looking. The first place I went was the old trail we used to hike. At the end of it stood the cabin from the photo, more weathered than I remembered, but unmistakable. The door was locked, and no one appeared to be home. I waited hours outside, hoping she'd show up. Nothing. The next day, I went into town, asking discreet questions at the diner, the gas station, the library. Most people didn't know Mira. One older woman, though, hesitated when I showed her the photo. "She comes through here sometimes," she said. "Doesn't say much, stays quiet, pays in cash." That was all I needed. I spent the next few nights camped near the cabin, hidden in the woods, waiting. On the third night, around midnight, I saw a figure approach the door. I held my breath. She had the same walk, the same jacket. It was her. I stepped out of the trees. "Mira?" She froze, turned. Her eyes widened. And for the first time in 6 years, I saw my sister again. She didn't cry. Neither did I. We just stood there, letting the moment hold everything words couldn't. Then she spoke. "I told Dad not to tell you. I made him," I said. "I had to know." She looked tired, older, but still her. Inside the cabin, she finally told me the truth. The document she found all those years ago wasn't just classified. It was evidence proof of illegal surveillance conducted by the firm our father worked for. Hundreds of innocent people monitored, their lives ruined quietly. No trials, no warnings. When Mira confronted Dad, he begged her to destroy it. She didn't. Instead, she ran. They tried to find her, of course, but she was always 2 steps ahead. She moved every few months, took odd jobs, trusted no one. Eventually, she found a small group of whistleblowers, people like her who had seen too much. Together, they were building a case, slowly and carefully, gathering what they needed to take down the entire network. "But you can't tell anyone," she said. "Not yet." "You think I came all this way to keep this secret?" I asked. "I think you came to understand, and maybe to help." That night, I made a decision. I wasn't going to leave her again. I'd help her finish what she started. Together. The next few weeks were a blur of encrypted messages, late-night research, and quiet meetings with Mira's contacts. I wasn't just her brother anymore. I was part of her mission. And what we found, it was bigger than I ever imagined. One of the files contained a name I recognized immediately. Agent Cooper, a man who had worked closely with our father. He had gone off the grid after the scandal broke. Mira believed he was the one still trying to hunt her down. That was our target. But we couldn't confront him directly. We had to trap him. Using old contacts from our dad's days at the firm, we spread a fake lead. A flash drive containing the last piece of evidence would be exchanged at a secluded train station outside town. Then we waited. Sure enough, Agent Cooper showed up alone, but armed. I watched from a distance as Mira approached him, calm and steady. She had no flash drive, just a recorder hidden in her jacket, broadcasting live to 3 separate safe channels. Everything he said was being logged, time-stamped, and streamed. He confessed to everything: the surveillance, the threats, the manipulation. When Mira asked him why, he simply said, "Because people like us don't live by the rules. We write them." That was all we needed. Within 48 hours, the recordings were released to trusted journalists. Headlines exploded, investigations launched, the network unraveled. We went into hiding again, just until the dust settled. But this time, we weren't running. We were watching, together. We stayed in hiding for almost 2 months. Mira had safe houses set up through her network, and every week we switched locations. It was quiet, almost too quiet, but I could feel a shift happening. We watched the news from borrowed laptops in borrowed rooms. The whistleblower leak was everywhere. Government officials were scrambling. The firm our father once worked for was in ruins. Arrests were being made. Former agents were testifying. It was working, but something still didn't sit right. Cooper had confessed, yes, but too easily. As if he wanted to get caught. As if he knew he wouldn't stay caught for long. And then, one morning, Mira disappeared. I woke up to an empty motel room. No note, no sign of struggle, just gone. At first, I panicked. I tore the place apart, called every contact, traced every message. Nothing. No one had seen her. Her safe accounts went dead. Her phones, silent. But I wasn't the boy who just watched anymore. I knew how she worked. I knew how to follow the shadows. It took me 4 days to find the clues she left behind. She had stored it in an encrypted file on a shared drive we used disguised as an image of our childhood dog. When decrypted, it revealed a single phrase, "They have Dad." I didn't believe it. Not at first. But a call to our father's office confirmed it. He hadn't shown up to work. No one had seen him in days. And a voicemail left on my burner phone chilled me to the bone. "Your sister made a deal. Come home, or the deal breaks." They had her. They had Dad. They had turned the game around. He didn't hesitate. I boarded a night bus back to the city and went straight to the old warehouse Mira once used to train me, where she taught me how to disappear. The place was abandoned, but not untouched. There were signs. A bent nail in the staircase, a smudge of lipstick on the window pane. Her way of saying, "I was here." Then I found the journal. It was hidden under a loose floorboard, wrapped in cloth. Inside were pages of Mira's thoughts, plans, names, maps, codes. She had known they would come for Dad. She was trying to get to him before they did. But somewhere along the way, she'd been caught. At the back of the journal was a simple question. "If they silence me, will you stay silent too?" I closed the book, and I knew what I had to do. This time, I went public. With Mira's notes and my recordings, I approached the same journalists who had broken the earlier story. I told them everything what we'd uncovered, how deep it went, and who was still pulling strings behind the curtain. I provided files, names, dates, but I didn't stop there. I made a video. In it, I stared into the camera and said, "My name is Ryan. My sister Mira and I exposed the truth. Now she's missing. They took our father. If anything happens to them or to me, let this be evidence. Let the world know we did the right thing." Then I uploaded it. It went viral within hours. Within 3 days, a congressional hearing was opened. And on the 5th day, I got a message. It came through a secure line. Mira's voice, cracked and quiet. "They're letting us go. Your video worked. Ryan, you did it." I met them in a government facility 3 hours outside the city. Dad looked worn out, but safe. Mira looked like she'd been through hell, but she was standing. We didn't say much. We didn't need to. We were together again, and we were free. The organization that had tried to control the world through secrets had been shattered not because of weapons, not because of force, but because a brother refused to let silence win. I've stayed out of the spotlight since then. So has Mira. But sometimes I get letters, emails from strangers, people who saw the video, who heard the story, who decided they too wouldn't stay quiet. And every time I read one, I remember the last thing Mira wrote in her journal before she disappeared. Truth doesn't die when you bury it. It grows underground, waiting to break through the cracks. We were the cracks. Now the truth is breaking through everywhere, and I'm no longer just a boy who wanted to find his sister. I'm part of something bigger, something that matters, and I'm not going anywhere.